Good evening, I'm Charles Payne. The border war heating up big time as Mexico's President Enrique Pena Nieto abruptly canceled his plans to meet with President Donald Trump, stating once again that his country will not pay for the wall. President Donald Trump, however, saying that Americans have already paid enough for the cost of illegal immigration.
The American people will not pay for the wall. And I've made that clear to the government of Mexico. The President of Mexico and myself have agreed to cancel our planned meeting scheduled for next week. Unless Mexico is going to treat the United States fairly, with respect, such a meeting would be fruitless, and I want to go a different route.
And just a short time ago, White House spokesman Sean Spicer clarifying comments that the administration was prepared to immediately impose a 20% border tax, saying that it's just one of several potential options if a trade war comes. If a trade war happens, then what does it really mean? Joining us now, former Congressman Joe Walsh, along with former Trump economic advisor, Steve Moore. Steve, I'll get to you on the economic side. Joe, I got to get to you on the political aspect of this, because the stakes have gotten high. Dare I say we're at a Mexican standoff, classic one. Who blinks here?
They blink. We don't. I mean, Charles, just pull yourself back for a second, though. Think about this. We're 5-6 days into a Trump presidency, and we're talking about the wall. We're 5 to 6 days into a Trump presidency, and Donald Trump is beginning the building of that wall. Most people, Charles, during the campaign thought this was all campaign talk. Trump wouldn't really follow through. We got to give him so much credit. This is why he got elected, and he's following through. And look, Charles, think about this. Trump is a businessman. He's been negotiating deals like this his whole life. This is just the first step. Mexico's going to blink. They'll sit down at the table.
You know, Steve, a lot of people talk. Donald Trump, of course, points to NAFTA. Just so the audience understands, NAFTA began in January of 1994. That year, America had a surplus, a trade surplus of Mexico of over $1 billion. In fact, 2 years earlier, look at that surplus. We had a surplus of $5.4 billion. We're on track right now to shatter the record, probably $63 billion deficit. There are some economic purists out there that say these numbers mean nothing, Steve. It's just an exchange of goods. We give them our money, and they give us goods and services.
Well, what we have here is an old-fashioned Mexican standoff, right? And I think it's worrisome. I don't worry too much, Charles, about the trade deficit with China. What I want to do is increase as much production in the United States as possible, no question about it. I think this is a dangerous game, frankly. I think the idea of having, we need a strong and prosperous Mexico next to us. We want them economically stable, and I think the idea of having a big tariff against Mexico, I think, is a very misguided idea.
But at this point, Joe, Mexico's enjoyed this relationship obviously a lot more than we have. I mean, their country has come on very nicely, and that's helped them become this strong marketplace. So, yeah, we understand it's a two-way street, but it looks like we've crossed the Rubicon on both sides, and I've got a feeling that it's probably going to have to come down to a short sort of skirmish, maybe that 20% border tax.
Yeah, well, you know what, Charles, again, I don't think this is a big deal. Any other president and any other administration, a big canceled meeting between the two presidents, oh, my God, it would be a huge thing. Donald Trump is a businessman. He's a negotiator. He's done this thing 1,000 times. So now he's negotiating on behalf of this country. But I will tell you this. I agree with my friend Stephen Moore, Charles. I love Corona, and I drink a lot of tequila. I don't want to be paying for this wall. I'm not paying for this wall. Mexico has got to pay for the wall.
You know, but Joe, you know, can I make a point about that, though? You know, it's interesting. Let's say that we do have a 20% tariff on the Corona that comes into the country. Joe, who do you think is going to pay that tax? It's not. It actually is going to be American consumers who are going to effectively have to pay more for that. So, look, I think I agree. Maybe I disagree, Charles. I may disagree with you a little bit on this. I think NAFTA clearly has benefited Mexico, no question about it, more than the United States, but I think we've both benefited. And the reason I think we want to continue strong relationships and trade relations with Mexico is the worst thing that could possibly happen for the United States is for Mexico to go the direction of, say, Cuba or look what's happening in Venezuela. We need our southern neighbor to be as strong and stable as possible.
Well, let's talk about this on the security side, Joe.
Okay.
Both guys, Joe and Steve, because Mexico, you know, sort of being hypocritical here because they've got a pretty extensive southern wall themselves. And yesterday, President Trump took great pains to actually identify the fact that more recently, in recent years, the illegal immigrants have largely come from Central America and other places.
That's true.
There's got to be some sort of meeting of the minds where there's a mutual security aspect to this between the drug lords and the carnage and the killings and the murders that and the fear that they've inflicted on the Mexican people, between the illegals that go into Mexico and stay there if they can't get into America. Maybe, to your point, Joe, that's where we find common ground.
Look, I think these two are going to sit down in a month. The Mexican president came out and said he doesn't like Mexico doesn't believe in walls. They've got a wall on their southern border. Every single day, hundreds cross our southern border. We're at a point, Charles, our government knows that Islamic terrorists are crossing the border. This is a real concern. And again, Trump's been doing this his whole life. This is not a big deal. This is a negotiation.
By the way, I'm not against the wall. I'm in favor of the wall because the American people are in favor of the wall. I'm just questioning whether a tariff is a good way to pay for it. I mean, why not have a border crossing tax? You know, the people who actually benefit from having this relationship and the border and the security there. You know, when you cross the border, you pay a $5 tax or whatever it might be. That could help pay for this wall over time. And look, I don't think the American general taxpayer should pay for it.
That might be good for the maintenance of the wall, Steve. But I mean, if they're talking $15 to $20 billion.
Why should it cost that much? I don't believe that number. Come on, to build a wall, I don't think it should cost $20 billion to build a wall. That's no way.
And Charles, Steve is right. No tariff. Again, the American consumers should not pay for this wall. But think about this. The money, we could block the money that Mexicans in this country illegally send back to Mexico every year. That's about 18 to 19 billion. There are ways to do this.
Guys, one other quick point on this. You know, you're talking. One of the things we're trying to do, obviously, is reduce illegal crossings over the border. The best way to have that happen is to have a vibrant economy in Mexico so they can build up a middle class, which has happened. I'll tell you this. If Mexico goes into recession and they don't see growth, those people are going to start coming again. They're going to climb over the wall. They're going to, tunnel here. They'll do whatever they can. So the best way to stop illegal immigration from Mexico is make sure they have an economy that's performing.
Once again, I think there's
and a wall.
and I think there's so many mutual benefits, in fact, for both countries with that wall. And I believe you're right. I believe President Trump's going to find an elegant solution to this, even though the dust up right now is a lot of fun and a little nerve-wracking to watch. Guys, you're both great. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Charles.
Hey, by the way, breaking news, just 2 days after Donald Trump signed an executive order reviving that pipeline industry, TransCanada just now announcing that it has applied for a presidential permit for the approval of the Keystone XL pipeline. The stock you can see on the ask moving up. It could have a real good session tomorrow. Great news for them. Breaking news also, a critical Trump executive order to protect our homeland from terrorism. We've got all the details and some amazing guests next.